Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Zeta here, back at it again to drop What If Deku Had Shazam's Powers. Now, if you're new to the channel, what's up? My name's Zeta. I make dope anime and Naruto What If content, and very soon I'm even going to be making Dragon Ball. So, if you're a new subscriber or a new watcher, then happy to have you. And with that being said though, guys, before we get into the video, this video is going to be a sponsored video. That being said, more details on them will be happening on later on. With that though, please make sure to go check out the links that I have down below in my description, seeing as I have things such as my Discord server, my thumbnail maker, the links to my sponsors and stuff like that. In case I say it later and I forget to mention the fact that it's in the description, then now you know. And with that being said, all those little minor details out of the way, we can already get started right into the brand new What If. Alright, so like most superhero stories, Deku's definitely going to be needing an origin story. But how are we going to give an origin to a character which already has multiple continuities, multiple different versions of the character, and multiple different ways of starting it? Which one do I choose? Well, I chose to choose neither of them. I went with my own. And this is going to be my own take on what if Deku had Shazam's powers. Okay, so we're going to be starting our story off when Deku is born in the hospital. Just like any other version of My Hero Academia, Deku is going to be a relatively normal kid. He's not going to have no quirk in this version. He's not even going to grow up in a different neighborhood. His parents aren't going to be changing, and nothing of that sort is really going to be different. His entire childhood up until the point where Deku is about 9 years old is all pretty much going to remain the same. Meaning Deku is gonna still get bullied, Deku is gonna still do this, and that. However, there will be one minor change that will be occurring to the story. The change is that Deku is going to be a super huge comic book fanatic. Now, Deku, just like usual, is going to be pure-hearted and a kind person, and Deku will love, and I mean absolutely love, comic books. This would lead to Bakugo multiple times always bullying Deku and calling him a nerd for all this stuff. Not only the fact that he's quirkless, but he also aspires to be a hero, but not only that, but he doesn't even look up to the real ones. He looks up to these fakes, as Bakugo would say. You look up to these fakes, Izuku. You're never gonna be a true hero, not quirkless like you. There's not a chance, Deku. Deku would look at Bakugo and say, but I mean, I can believe, right? And Bakugo would kick him in the face. He would basically go down on the ground. Deku that same day will go home, as he's now currently 9 years old, and he would just start reading his favorite comic of all time, Shazam. Deku would be laying in bed looking out the window, really just wondering why it is that he was born quirkless. Why is he given these cards that he was given? It'd be so amazing if he could just shoot lightning and fly and just be like Shazam. It'd be great. Deku would give anything for that. Deku would look at the window as he would see a shooting star, and Deku would immediately just say, I mean, I guess it's worth a try. As he would say, I wish I had Shazam's powers. Deku would then go to sleep, and it's at this point that Deku would go to school the very next day. Deku would basically just be in the cafeteria as Bakugo would walk inside with his little goons, and he would then go up to Deku as he would knock his tray out of his hands. Deku would just say, alright, Bakugo, as he would pick up his stuff and throw it in the trash. Deku would then not really say anything, and Bakugo would go away laughing as he would say, told ya, that kid over there, he's my bit. And you guys know the word. As the kids would then start laughing and say, yeah, Bakugo, you really tamed him. As it's at this point that Deku would just sit down, take out one of his comic books, and it's at this point that Deku would just begin reading. He would start reading line for line the comic of Shazam, as this is when Deku would get to his favorite part. The part where he transforms into him. Deku would read the words aloud. He would say, Shazam! As immediately through the roof of the cafeteria, a lightning bolt would strike right towards the ground, as everybody would have seen it as if it happened in slow motion. Deku's body was immediately surrounded in a coat of electricity, and Deku turned into the form that you guys see up on screen now. If I do it, then you guys will be able to see exactly what Deku looks like. At this current moment, there should be a picture up on screen, so in case you're listening to me like an audiobook right now, then I would suggest coming over to see Deku's sexy craftiness and all his glory. That being said, yeah, Deku's going to be sitting there, and in case you guys are wondering where I got this amazing artwork at, this was actually made by the personal artist of the channel, I Care. You guys can find her on Instagram in case you guys want to ask her for any art, and she does amazing work. She's one of the best My Hero Academia artists that I've ever found, and she's so reasonably priced. I cannot believe the fact that, I mean, I got something this high quality for the price that I did. So please guys, it would mean the world to me if you guys were to go over to her page and show her some love. Her link will be down below in the description, and it will be the first link down below. That being said, let's get back into the story. This is when Deku would immediately look at his hand and say, "What's going on?" Deku would then see his hands as he would see giant fists, bulking muscles, and Deku would then run over to the cafeteria as he would say, "What's going on?" People would then look at him and they would say, "Whoa, Deku, you got your quirk?" This one Bakugo would look at Deku's direction and say, "Huh? That's not Deku. I refuse to believe it." He would yell, "Deku!" as immediately he would rush at Deku's direction, and Deku would immediately, as if he saw him in slow motion, dodge out of the way. He would then smirk and say, "I can finally do something." Deku would then point his hand at Bakugo as a lightning bolt would shoot out of it, and Bakugo would get flung into one of the tables. This when Bakugo would break a couple of bones, and Deku would then say, I have a quirk?" Deku would then say, "I'm Shazam!" as immediately another lightning bolt would strike and Deku would turn back into normal. The goons that Bakugo was with would immediately corner Deku, and they would start cracking their knuckles as Deku would look at them and say, "Do you guys really want me to use my powers again?" This is when they would both slowly back away and say, "He's right. He's not the same person we once knew. He now has a quirk. We can't do things to him anymore." As this is when they would rush over to Bakugo and say, "Hey, you alright, man?" Bakugo would get up and say, "Get off me." "Yeah, I'll be fine." He would give Deku a death stare, and it's at this point that Deku would go to the quirk office, as Deku would be told that he's quirkless. How does he have these strange abilities? Deku would then remember back to the night where he basically wished for himself to be Shazam. As Deku would say, "Could it be?" Deku would say that maybe it's just a new line of quirks. Maybe it's something different. I mean, maybe it's a mutation or something like that. You never know. The doctor would just say, "Yeah, sure." As he would just write off the fact that it's a quirk, seeing as he doesn't really feel like having to deal with any paperwork or having to do any studies on him. He's kind of lazy, didn't have his morning coffee, and he was just like agreeing. Deku would name the quirk Shazam, as immediately Deku would jump out of the chair and start screaming. He would start saying, "I have a quirk!" He would look at his mom as he would say, "Mom, I can become a hero. I can become somebody like All Might." "No, Mom, I won't stop there. I'll be better than All Might. I promise." As this is when Deku would then finally start beginning his little superhero training montage. Deku would learn how to fly, how to shoot electricity. He would learn how to turn into Shazam on command, and Deku would just be living the life. This is when Deku would basically start posting things all over his social media. He would start posting stories of himself practicing how to fly on Snapchat, and it would begin to get so much attention. People all around the world would begin to talk about the kid who has the same powers as a comic book superhero. It's awesome. Deku is incredible. Nobody's ever seen anything like this, and everybody all around the world would start basically becoming fans of him. People would even start putting out petitions saying that they should let him be a hero. They should let him. But a lot of people would say that no, he still is technically a child. He needs maturity before he can go out onto the field. That being said, this would lead to Deku growing up being around so many great heroes. He would be around all of the greats. He would be with pro heroes training with him every day. Not only that, but Deku would already be stronger than All Might. I mean, Deku and All Might of course have met, and they've been friends for a while. All Might offered Deku One for All, but Deku of course turned it down. He doesn't need a power like All for One. He has Shazam's abilities. He doesn't need any of that stuff. I mean, All might be his favorite superhero, but Deku doesn't need a superhero anymore. Deku is his own hero. He's the main character to his own story now, and Deku's gonna make a difference in this world. He would ask All Might to basically train him in how to rescue people, how to make people feel safe, and Deku would become All Might's protege. It would call all over the news that All Might is going to be training that kid with Shazam's powers, and Deku would just become a worldwide known superhero, a superhero that villains are honestly afraid of. All for One would be terrified of this boy who has these innate powers and abilities, and would then start creating the powers of the Nomus. These ones are going to be just as strong as the high-end Nomus, and the new high-end Nomus, don't even get me started on how powerful those things are going to be. That being said, this is when Deku would basically grow up for the next couple of years. And just saying, Deku's not going to stay at the same boring school that he used to go to. No, Deku's going to go to the highest of the highest schools possible. Deku's going to have money now. And Deku's family will never have to work again because Deku is just that insane. Deku has a social media following of over 10 let's go with he would have about 1 billion followers on Instagram. People are just going insane. I mean, Deku is a phenomenon. Everybody loves him. Deku has gone around the world doing little shows for people. He'd go on tour even at the age of 12 years old, and he would stay transformed in his Shazam state. People would love Deku, and Deku would love the people. That being said, we're going to be having a little bit of a small little time skip that we're going to be jumping over to the day of the 10 months. Now, Deku would begin the 10 months, and this is when Nezu would send him a letter saying that, hey, you should join UA. We could get you to be a pro hero after your first year. The government is requiring us to give you 1 year of normal schooling, and after that, you can go become your own hero. You're already strong enough to be one. I acknowledge that, but you still need the training. So Deku would say sure thing, as he already has all the training necessary. Deku's even gone on little hero patrols with All Might and has helped save so many people's lives. Whenever Deku gets a chance, he saves people and doesn't even have to do anything really. His presence alone is enough to scare off many villains who have seen videos of Deku sparring with All Might and obliterating the man at that. That being said, All Might would not even get a successor because, I mean, All for One, it's not a threat. But All Might would continue holding All for One, One for All. And this would basically lead to him starting to finally search for somebody for him to give All for One to. One for All. Sorry for the little bang on the ground. I was playing with magnets and I just dropped it. Hold on, let me go grab it real quick. Alright, I have it now. Alright, anyways, so yeah, Deku now started his 10-month training, and this is where Deku would finally begin to have some little moments where he starts going around Japan, his old hometown, as Deku would then say, can't believe it. A couple of years ago, I was nobody. People looked at me as if I was some sort of freak. I mean, being quirkless in society, it sucks. I can't believe I got blessed this way. Deku would then start thinking these thoughts and then think, what about quirkless people? What about them? I completely forgot about my roots. Nowadays, I don't even acknowledge the quirkless people like I once did a long time ago. And this is when Deku would post something on his little Instagram, as he would say, hey guys, let's not forget about our quirkless peeps out there. You know, they may not have quirks, but you know, they're just as special as us. People would then start basically just being like, you know what? I never thought about it like that. And people would start showing a little bit more respect to quirkless people. Deku would then start basically putting more and more attention on that, and this would just lead to Deku kind of just vibing during those 10 months. I mean, he already has all the training he could ever need, and Deku's already stronger than anybody in the My Hero Academia verse, so really no reason for Deku to do anything, to be honest. This would lead to Deku arriving at UA and taking the little entrance exam. They of course offered him to just automatically be entered into it, but Deku decided that he was going to do something different. Deku would pretty much decide that instead of having the normal entrance exam with everybody where they all had to take their exams, Deku will take his exam privately, and not only that, but he will get the entire arena to destroy about 1,000 robots. They want to see how fast Deku can destroy all of those. That being said, Deku would set up his phone, he would then even get a GoPro, and he would basically just begin to blitz at 1,000 robots. He would start obliterating left and right, shooting lightning bolts. He would go straight into robots and destroy 20 at a time. He would shoot so many lightning bolts that the entire place would get engulfed, and Deku would just be going absolutely insane. Deku was showcasing his power, and it would take him about 21 seconds to destroy 1,000 robots. Yeah, 1,000 robots. And in case you were wondering, they were all ranging from 1 to 2 to 3 pointers. And when it came down to 0 pointers, there was about 5 of them, which Deku dismantled without a second thought. Deku grabbed one and literally threw it out into space. That's how OP Deku is. And people were watching this as Deku was on live on Instagram. People were all just like, that kid is insane. Like, people were just going crazy. News stories were going insane. And everybody was just so hyped. People wanted to get into UA just so they can get the chance to meet Deku. So many people wanted Deku, and it was just insane. A lot of villains have villain percentages have even dropped due to the fact that Deku's around. People don't even want to do villainous things because they know that if they start, they're going to be put down as soon as Deku gets into the scene. Not only that, but Deku has superhuman hearing, so he's pretty broken. That being said, this would lead to basically the normal things that would happen. The normal people who obviously are going to be getting into UA high school are going to be, of course, acknowledged, and they're all going to be getting into the hero course. That being said, Deku is, of course, going to be there at the first one to arrive. Now, Deku would get inside the building, and he would see Aizawa laying down on the ground. He would say, same old, same old. You haven't changed, Aizawa. Aizawa would look at Deku as he would be in a smaller form, which actually isn't really that small anymore. Deku's been working out, training in martial arts, so his base form is pretty buff in and of itself. I mean, he could probably fill in the costume in his base, so when he turns into Shazam, the only thing he really gains is the super strength and all that stuff. So Deku he's pretty strong. If he didn't have a Shazam form, he could probably fend for himself. So, with that being said, Deku would ask Aizawa if he wants to go to the weight room or something like that, and Aizawa would say, sure, why not? I might as well. This is when Aizawa would basically proceed to just start, doing the little weight stuff with Deku, and he and Aizawa would just start talking, having a little normal conversation. Aizawa would ask Deku what's it like to have such great powers, as Deku would say that, I don't know, he doesn't really know how to explain it. One day he was a quirkless kid who nobody seemed to respect, and the next he was famous on social media, rich, he had everything he ever wanted, and Deku never really understood why. Why was he the chosen one? Aizawa would look at him and say, who knows, kid, but you gotta make good with that power, With great power comes great responsibility. Deku would look at him and say, yeah, you're right. As he would finish putting up the 1,000 pounds, and Deku would say, alright, that's pretty light. How about we raise the stakes? As Deku would quite literally go to the base of UA High School and pick up the entirety of the high school in itself. This is when Deku would basically go back into the building and say, alright, that sunlight was bothering me. I had to move the school a little bit. Aizawa would freaking facepalm as he would just be like, you never change, do you, kid? As Deku is so overconfident that it's not even funny. It's not funny how overconfident this man is, but I mean, can you blame him? If you had these powers and abilities, I'm pretty sure you would be overconfident as well. So Deku would continue just vibing, and this is when about 30 minutes later, Deku would go hit the showers and arrive into classroom. He would have his UA uniform on, and this is when a bunch of people would begin to get into the classroom. Deku would then start meeting a bunch of his fellow classmates as they would all just be like, you're the kid. You're Izuku Midoriya, right? Shazam. As Deku would say, the one and only. This is when people would basically start surrounding Deku, as immediately they're all just like, dude, I love you. This is when Denki Kaminari would walk into the classroom and say, Lightning Boy. He would immediately go up to Deku as he's like, dude, we need to be friends, right now. Deku would look at him and say, sure thing, man. I mean, why not? We're in the same classroom, am I right? This is when Kaminari would smirk and say, no, not because of that. As he would then let out his lightning, and Deku would say, whoa. This is when Kaminari would say, want to see how strong this is? As Deku would say, sure thing. This is when Kaminari would shoot a lightning bolt right at Deku, and Deku would get flung into the walls. He's like, okay, yep. Not so weak, as Kaminari in this version of events has been training his lightning way more than the original Kaminari. If normal Kaminari was to have shot his lightning at Deku, Deku would have felt nothing. It literally might have tickled. But since Kaminari saw Deku and he was so inspired at how Deku uses his powers, Kaminari decided to train, maybe 10 times harder than his normal counterpart. So Kaminari's lightning can now reach a level of 10 million volts easily. And that's just the beginning of it. If he really was to push himself, he could reach 15 million volts. So Kaminari is definitely way more powerful than many would expect. That being said, Deku would dust himself off and say, you definitely are packing some power there. As he would say, definitely gonna need to develop some lightning immunity. As Kaminari's like, really? I mean, I could help you train with that. Deku would say, dude, that'd be awesome. Let's hang out. As Kaminari would say, name the time and place. As Deku would say, how about my place? After school. Kaminari would look at him and say, sure thing. As Kirishima would say, whoa, what about me? Can I come too? Deku would be like, I mean, sure, why not? As Aoyama would come in and say, so you're gonna invite everybody but me? I should go too. As he would just be sitting there thinking that the world revolves around him. Deku would say, sure, why not? As Ida would come in and say, it's an honor to meet you. You surpass all of us. I'm gonna love working alongside you. Uraraka would go over to him as she would be creaming in her pants immediately. Sato would come in with desserts, and everybody would just be going all around Deku, just completely, just around him and just being so amazed. This is when Todoroki would walk into the classroom and he'd say, "Yo, what's up, Deku?" As Deku would walk up to Todoroki, he'd say, "Whoa, what's up, man? You want to come over to my house after school today?" Todoroki would look at him and say, "I mean, sure, why not? It's been a while, right? Been about 2 years, right?" Deku would say, "Sure has, man. Why haven't you called?" Todoroki would say, "Been a little busy, a little preoccupied with trying to get as strong as you." As Deku would start laughing and he would just start rubbing the back of his head. This is when a familiar face would walk into the classroom by the name of Katsuki Bakugo. He would look at Deku's direction and say, "If it isn't Mr. Popular. Seems like you've changed a lot ever since I knew you as a kid, Deku." As Deku would look at Kachan, he would then say, "Kachan?" This is when Bakugo would say the one and only, "You're not the only one that's gotten stronger over the years, Deku. Some might say that I may have even become more stronger just because of you. I promise, Deku, that #1 spot isn't all going to be yours. It might be mine too. It's going to be time for the spotlight to be shared. Not somebody just like you who has everything handed to them." Deku would look at Bakugo and say, "Everything handed to them? Do you know what you did to me?" As he would calm down and people around would start saying, "Yo, what's going on between you two?" This is when Deku would say, "It's nothing." As Bakugo would smirk and say, "Got under your skin, didn't I? Looks like you haven't forgotten everything from your childhood, have you?" As Deku would just look at Bakugo and have a really pissed off look. This is when Bakugo would smirk, and it's at this point that Deku would basically just go sit back in his chair, as Aizawa would pretty much commence the quirk assessment assignment. Everybody would be told that whoever gets the lowest scores is going to be expelled, and of course everybody would go through with the exam. Deku is going to be getting the scores that you believe Shazam would get. What do you guys think Shazam would get if he was to take the quirk apprehension test? That's literally what Deku would get, whatever you guys believe. I'm not really going to go into details. You guys can tell me, seeing as Shazam is dope. I know like what almost everybody else knows about Shazam, you know, his lightning, his normal powers. I know all the base stuff, but in terms of those comic book people who know that Shazam's like as strong as 30 planets or something, or power scale him, then you guys know exactly what it is he got. That being said, everybody in the classroom would just be shocked at the scores that Deku got. When it comes to the last test, it was a punching machine, which Deku wasn't even allowed to go on. Instead, Deku quite literally had to flick it, and the flick of his finger was able to destroy the machine. That being said, Deku just kind of, rubbed the back of his head and say he's sorry about that, as everybody was just like, "Whoa, dude, you're awesome." This is when everybody would have already forgotten about the fact that they would have gotten expelled if they didn't pass, as Aizawa would just get a little bit of an angered look in his face, and he would say, "All you kids." As it's at this point that he would basically begin to essentially just look at Deku and be like, "All right, so that's it for today. Nobody's getting expelled." Mineta would be like, "What? I'm not going to get expelled?" As he would basically sigh and be like, "Oh, thank God. I didn't know what I would do without all this booty." Oh, bro, I'm so weird. No, but seriously though, Mineta would just be a creep, and it's at this point that Deku would walk over to him and say, "Dude, you gotta chill, man." As Bakugo would look at Deku and give him an angry look. It's at this point that Deku would pretty much end up going over to his house, as everybody would get picked up in a limo and they would go over to Deku's house. They would just play video games, hang out a little bit, while Deki and Kaminari and everybody who liked a good fight would try themselves out with Deku. They would try to spar with him. Todoroki would end up actually being the one who does the best, even though Kaminari has the advantage in terms of what Deku's weaknesses is. But Todoroki's been fighting against Deku for years. He already knows how Deku operates, and Deku was able to let himself a little loose when it comes to fighting Todoroki. Because of all those giant icebergs, Deku was able to use a lot of his strength that he usually wouldn't be able to use under normal circumstances. That being said, it'd be pretty fun. And in case I'm wrong about the little lightning weakness for Shazam, then I do apologize, because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of looked up a little superpower wiki. Hold on. Shazam weakness. I gotta make sure if it's real, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, he's weak to electricity. All right, good. I'm right about that. So, you guys don't get to crucify me down below in the comments. That's what's up. A lot of people might be triggered right now, being like, "You don't know Shazam's powers." Bro, I saw the movie. He's dope. I mean, Deku would look cool as Shazam. I decided to do the idea. You know how it goes. Anyways, that being said, Deku would then go to school the very next day, as of course they're going to be having the heroes versus villains event. And we are now getting even closer to the finale of this story. Actually, no, we actually got a good 40 minutes left-ish. So yeah, Deku and everybody would arrive, and this is when they would have a normal day of school. And by normal, I mean have you guys ever had a celebrity show up to your school? That's basically what a normal day at school is like to these guys for the first couple of weeks or so. That being said, Deku would basically just be there as he's just kind of hanging out with everybody. Everybody seems to like Deku quite a bit, and Deku likes them as well. Deku would be going through his normal classes up until the final class of the day, where All Might would bust in through the door and say, "I am here, walking through the door like a normal person." But nobody would pay any attention to All Might. They would all just be talking to Deku, turning towards his direction, just being like, and somebody would finally acknowledge All Might. He'd be like, "Oh, hey, All Might." As All Might would pretty much put his head down and just be like, "Huh, I'm that obsolete, huh?" As he would then look at Deku, and he would then walk over to him and he would say, "Ah, Midoriya, how are you doing today?" Deku would look at All Might and say, "I'm doing pretty good." As he would then say, "Shazam!" As the top of the roof would pretty much get blown and Deku would turn into a Shazam form. He would pretty much end up pulling All Might in for a brug. And in case you don't know what that is, it's a bro hug. As it's at this point that they would hug it out and Deku would then say, "So, finally gonna get into this hero training or stuff?" As All Might would say, "Sure thing." He would then say, "All right, guys, so for the first thing we're going to be doing today, guys, you guys are all going to be having little 2v2 battles, heroes versus villains." He would explain the thing, and then he would then say that Deku's not going to be allowed to participate in it. Instead, he and Deku are going to have a little bit of a spar at the end where All Might is going to try to get the bomb from Deku, and Deku's going to have to try to do everything he can to stop him. All the matches that you guys would expect to go, all the matches that were in normal would go out as they would be in canon, and the match that Denki was in, Denki would end up actually winning, with a team actually having to have 3 members on it, and Deku just kind of vibing in the back, right? You know, the man's chilling, the man's having a pretty good time, you know. And that's when everybody would go. The heroes versus villains stuff would end, and Deku would look at All Might as he would stretch and say, "You ready, All Might?" All Might would look at him and say, "Not really, but sure, let's go, Midoriya." This is when Deku and All Might would stare down at each other as All Might would blitz at the bomb, and Deku would just smirk as he has both of his arms crossed. Deku, in a superhero-like fashion, would fly in front of All Might and quite literally stick his chest out as All Might would rush into his chest and quite literally ricochet off of it. Deku would then smirk, and this one everybody in the classroom would just be like, "He's so cool." Momo would be dripping. Jiro would just be like, her heart would be pulsating, and Toru would just be like, "He's so awesome." This is when everybody would basically just watch as Deku manhandles All Might, completely embarrasses the man, and Deku at the end of everything just decides, "All right, enough's enough. I won." As All Might is just like, "Couldn't have done that about 20 seconds earlier." As Bakugo, seeing this, would just have sweat falling down his face and anger. As Bakugo just gets angrier and angrier, he would then say, "Damn it, damn it, damn it! I can't seem to get stronger than him. Every time I think he's shown everything, it's like he gets stronger. I can't do it. Am I really beneath this kid?" He would start gritting his teeth, and this one All Might would realize this, as he would say, hey, calm down. Calm down, kid." Bakugo would then look at All Might as he would say, "Don't tell me what to do." He would then walk away as he would walk out of the classroom, and it's at this point that everybody would just end up going home. This is when they would have about 1 week of normal schooling, and Bakugo would kind of just keep quiet, no longer acting with the bravado that he usually acts when in the original My Hero Academia story, just kind of being a jealous little prick, honestly. This is when everybody would kind of just be told about the USJ. About 3 days later, they would all be given consent forms, and of course they would all sign them. As everybody hangs out with Deku after school for these following days, they're all kind of just chilling with each other because it's like, bro, it's Deku. Like, what are you expecting? That being said, this is when they would go to the USJ event, and it is here where everything is going to start slightly getting a little interesting. Of course, just like many of you guys would expect, they would have the little bus ride, and they would of course be talking about how Deku's clearly the strongest one there. People would just be saying, "Nah, it's clearly me," as they would just be joking, and everybody would be having a great time. Bakugo would just be in the back irritated by everybody, and Deku would just keep paying attention to Bakugo's movements. For some reason, it seems as if Bakugo is smiling. He seems a little happier today. This is when Deku would basically arrive to the USJ, as everybody would get out in a straight file line, seeing as Ida's the class president. Even though they told Deku to do it, Deku was just like, "Nah, I'm good. I'll be vice president." So instead, it's Deku and Ida. Deku's vice president, Ida's the main one. That being said, Deku would kind of just be like, "Yeah, guys, just do what Ida says," as they all immediately do whatever it is Ida commands. And it's at this point that everybody would just go into the USJ. 13 would start giving her a lame speech, as Deku would say, "All right, guys, do me a favor. Can you guys go outside real quick?" As everybody would just be like, "For what?" And this is when Bakugo would get a sweat drop down his face, as Deku would say, "Bakugo, why are you sweating so much?" As Bakugo would say, "It's nothing, Deku. Mind your own business." This is when a purple mist would appear, and Deku would say, "Is that why?" As he would immediately shoot a lightning bolt right at Kurogiri. As Kurogiri would fall onto the ground, Deku would then shoot another one at the door as they were just closed and they would get blown off. Deku would then tell them all to go outside as Aizawa would say, "Let's go, Deku." Deku would quite literally hold his hand out in front of Aizawa and say, "Don't worry about it, Teach. I got it." He would then grab his phone as he starts setting up the camera, and he would then say, "Alright guys, vlog number 420. Alright, today we're going to be taking out some villains in the USJ." As everybody would be on their live, they'd be commenting, "Oh my god, it's Deku!" Zether would comment under it saying, "Yo guys, have you guys liked the video? In case you guys are liking the video, make sure you guys like the video because it's like, it helps the algorithm. Make sure to like the video, man. Like the video, like the video, like the video." No, seriously though, but you know, it would mean a lot if you guys did like the video, seeing as it does help out with algorithm. If you guys are liking the video so far, make sure to consider subscribing, maybe tell a friend and tell another friend. And with that being said, let's go back into the story. Deku would blitz at all of the small fry villains as he would take them out immediately. And this is when Kurogiri would basically just be knocked out, not being able to do a thing. Shigaraki would be sitting there as in case you're wondering, All For One already did the procedure with Shigaraki. In case any of you guys are manga readers, then you guys are going to be knowing exactly what I'm talking about. Now, in case you guys don't know, All For One didn't really, spoiler alert by the way, All For One didn't really train Shigaraki or give him, you know, all the things that he's given him for no reason. He did that because of the fact that, you know, obviously he's not his grandson and, you know, his quirk is pretty cool, right? And he really did that so he can have a new body, a vessel. That's what Shigaraki really is. They also did a little bit of a procedure on him so that he can be way stronger than All For One ever was. Not only that, but have All For One, I mean One For All, and he even has the little decay quirk. That being said, Deku would immediately notice the dangerous presence coming off of him as All For One would clap and say, "You're doing great." This is when Shigaraki would be about to put one foot down and slam it as everything would decay. However, before anything can start decaying, Deku would sense how dangerous this man is and immediately fly over to him. As Deku would pretty much proceed to grab Shigaraki by the arm, Shigaraki would grip Deku as he would then begin to smile and Deku's arm would start decaying. As this is where the story, just kidding, you really thought? No, Deku would quite literally get grabbed by Shigaraki, and this is when Shigaraki would say, "Good night." As it's at this point that he would expect Deku to decay, but instead, Deku's regenerative properties are so powerful that his decay is stopped immediately. Deku would immediately look at that arm as he would quite literally say, "So, thought that little quirk of yours was going to be able to do a thing?" He would grab Shigaraki by the throat or All For One and then say, "It won't do anything." As Deku would stare All For One dead in his eyes and shoot lightning bolts straight out of them as they would go right into All For One's head, and Deku would then grab his body as he would start basically compressing it into a little ball, and Deku would then kick it into outer space with everybody watching what just happened. Deku would look at them all and fly back to the camera as he would say, "Yeah, that villain, he couldn't be allowed to live. That man literally had the ability to decay things. If I would have let him live, he would have quite literally decayed the entire USJ as well as everybody who was present. That ability might have even destroyed the entire continent of Japan." People would just be like, "What?" As they would be like, "Dude, no way that that's true." People would start having little debates online talking about whether he really could or couldn't. And this is when Deku would just be like, whatever, doesn't matter. They'll all love me anyways. As Deku would basically proceed to essentially just take out the rest of the Nomos that were there, because even though they're strong, I mean, they're weak sauce compared to Deku. Deku would electrocute them so bad to the point where their regenerative properties don't work, and they would kind of just have the rest of the USJ as you would expect. Everybody would just be having a good time, and everybody would just be like, I mean, what's the point of us being pro heroes if we're gonna have somebody like Deku? Deku would look at them all and say, "Well, the thing is, I won't be able to get to everybody. That's where you all come in. That's where the next generation comes in. People like us. We're going to be able to save the people." As he would then look at Bakugo and say, "Oh, and Bakugo, I think you owe the class a little bit of an apology." Bakugo would say, "What are you talking about, nerd?" As Deku would say, "You're the one who told them about where we were." As Bakugo would say, "No, I wasn't." Deku would say, yes, you were, as he would immediately handcuff Bakugo, and Bakugo would literally get thrown in Tartarus, as that's the end of Bakugo. And with that being said, Deku would then basically just go on to spend the next week of school kind of just vibing with his classmates, not really doing too much of anything, kind of just chilling a little bit, you know what I mean? And Deku would then finally be time for the US Sports Festival. As soon as that arrives, everybody would of course be so excited to watch Deku perform live. The UA Sports Festival would quite literally get sold out immediately. People would buy tickets from all over the planet just to go watch Deku be in this. And this is when Deku would kind of just be like, just the biggest thing. Like everybody would be talking about how Deku's gonna do, and this is when we will now be getting into the speech. Midnight would tell Deku to come over and give the speech, and Deku would be in his Shazam form. Midnight would literally be licking her lips, and she's just like, interesting. And this is when she would basically tell Deku, she would wink at him, and Deku would smirk, as it's at this point that Deku, oh yeah, that man's had enough MILFs, that man's had enough MILFs in his life to know what that means. And so Midnight would kind of just, you know, be giving the signals. And so after the US Sports Festival, you already know what's about to go down. Deku would basically proceed to give the speeches. Everybody and their mothers would get hype, bro. Like everybody would get so excited at what Deku's saying. People would be paying so much attention as if it's like God's gospel or something. And Deku would just be having the crowd cheering for him. Everybody would be going insane and haywire. And this is when the race would finally begin. The race would start, and it's at this point that Deku would basically clear the race as soon as it started. Todoroki's ice wouldn't even reach Deku's feet by the time that he was off all the way at the finish line. And this is when everybody's like, whoa, Deku! You know, everybody's excited, everybody's cheering. Deku would be smirking, thinking that, yeah, they love me. As it to this point that Deku would pretty much just be waiting for everybody, as he would sit there for 10 minutes and that portion would be cleared. This is when the next event would be called on, and it would actually end up being not the cavalry battle, because I hate the cavalry battle, but it would be a capture the flag event, which every team is going to be spread up in a team of 10, and they're going to be trying to need to steal the other team's flags with obstacles in the way, of course. Whichever team Deku's on is going to win, obviously, because the man is an absolute Chad. What are you expecting? Come on now. So even though Deku's team's gonna win, I mean, I might as well get into it a little bit. The team that Deku would be facing would be Toru, it would be Jiro, it would be somebody from Class 1B, let's say Mineta, and Koda, because Deku's just lucky like that. So literally everybody that's on the other team can't do a thing to Deku. Deku would quite literally proceed to walk over to the flag with everybody trying to hold him, trying to use their quirks. Like Toru would quite literally be punching at Deku's chest. Shoji, I believe I said Shoji's on the team. He would be trying to hit Deku. He would try to put him in a headlock, but Deku would just continue walking. And Monoma would try copying their quirks as he tries to attack Deku, but it's not doing a thing. Deku's quite literally a one-man team. This is when Deku would finally arrive at the flag, grab it, and then fly back towards his area. As it's at this point that Deku would put it down, and everybody would just be cheering, saying, "He can't be stopped!" Everybody would just be cheering, going insane, like, "Deku! Deku! Deku! Deku!" Or actually, no, not Deku, but they would be like, "Shazam!" Like, they'd all just be screaming it, like, "Shazam! Shazam!" You know, they'd all be going insane. The fans would be loving every second of it. And this is when Deku would just be smiling, thinking that he's so blessed. This is when Deku would basically proceed to wake up, as it was all a dream. Just kidding, you really thought? Nah, this is real life, bro. Deku is Shazam, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Deku's broken. Deku's just pretty much just gonna be a celebrity during this what if, and everything's going to be a mollywop slap. Kind of just gonna go through every little My Hero Academia event in order, and this is when I'm now going to be taking a little bit of a pause from the story to tell you guys all about fandom. Alright, so now it's time to tell you guys about Fandom. Now, Fandom is an online merch store company that sells pretty much anime apparel. Anything ranging from My Hero Academia to One Piece, from Demon Slayer to Naruto. They have a bunch of options to choose from, and up on screen right now, you guys should be able to see a bunch of options. Whether it be Tokyo Revengers, maybe I might put One Punch Man, maybe not. Maybe there will be Jujutsu Kaisen up there. Maybe there will be, It's another anime that I can think of. Dragon Ball. Maybe Dragon Ball might be there. They have pretty much any anime merch that you guys would want to wear. They pretty much have it. And it's at a very reasonable price. Seeing as right now, they're having a 50% sale on their already affordable stuff. So if you've ever wanted to get yourself some anime apparel, then I would definitely suggest going to Fandom. Anytime you guys go out there and you guys see a shirt or design that's from an anime like store-ish thing, they're always overpriced. See, a normal shirt that you'll find at a store will probably run you about $30. On Fandom, it'll be way cheaper. A hoodie? Don't even talk about how expensive a hoodie would be at a real store. And not only that, but Fandom does very good rates when it comes to shipping. So what are you waiting for, guys? Go shop at Fandom now. And with my code ZETHER, you can even get 5% off your order. So what are you waiting for? Make sure you guys go onto Fandom and copy yourself some merch for your boy. That being said, ZETHER out. All right. So after hearing about the sponsor, I hope you guys are inspired to go click that link and go buy yourself some sweet merch. That being said, let's get back into the what if. Okay, so we pick back up right after Deku had just won the Capture the Flag event, and now the fights will properly begin. All the fights that don't include Deku are kind of just going to go as many of you guys would expect. When it comes down to Deku versus Shinso, Deku doesn't actually end up fighting any of the people who he actually ended up fighting. He doesn't fight against Bakugo. He doesn't fight against Todoroki. No, Deku is quite literally not going to be allowed to fight in the final battles because everybody already knows that Deku's gonna win. So instead, Deku just he's kind of just a commentator up on the stage, just talking about what's going on in the battles, cheering on all of his boys. And the last battle would actually consist of Kaminari versus Todoroki. The battle would be a very close one, but Todoroki would end up taking the cake because he actually uses his flames in this version. And yeah, that's basically the UA Sports Festival event for you. That being said, after that, they all go back to school and excuse me, not gonna lie, I had to go away for a second. And anyways, they basically go back to school, and this is when they are all talking about what happened in the UA Sports Festival. People are just getting lit, so excited about the fact that they're going to be going on their little internships and their hero agency stuffs, and they start looking at how many offers they have. Now, of course, Deku is the hero who has the most offers. He literally has a maxed out offers. Like, he has so many offers from everywhere that Deku just doesn't know where to start. He doesn't know it all. But this is when Deku would get one offer by one specific person by the name of Gran Torino. And of course, Deku's going to be accepting because All Might would tell him and advise him to accept the offer. That being said, Deku's of course going to be picking his hero name that honestly doesn't take that long to think about because it's like everybody calls him that already. So yeah, he goes with Shazam, and now is when the very next day would arrive. He'd be saying goodbye to all of his classmates as they're all getting ready to board the train and get ready for their own personal little agencies and stuff like that. And Deku would go over to Hosu. No, Gran Torino doesn't live in Hosu City. He lives away from there. He would go to where Gran Torino resides, and this is when Deku would basically arrive outside the door. He would knock at the doors. He would notice the doors open. He would then walk inside and say, "Hello, my name's Izuku Midoriya. I'm here for the internship." As he would see an old man on the ground lying down with blood all over himself, Deku would then say, "Are you okay?" As he would immediately say, "Shazam!" And he would blitz over towards him as he would say, "Okay, come on." He would push a little bit of electricity into Gran Torino as he would say, that's shocked." As Gran Torino would wake up and say, "Gotcha, kid." As Deku would say, "What are you talking about?" And Gran Torino would then basically get up as he would start blitzing around Deku and punching him square in the jaw a bunch of times over and over. Deku, for the literal entire time that he's going to be with Gran Torino, is just going to get his ass beat. And that's literally all I'm going to say. Deku's going to get his ass whooped the entire time. Gran Torino is just teaching him literally how to take a hit, and also teaching him how to perceive opponents who don't usually fight in the normal way. Because Gran Torino is not somebody who even Shazam would probably be able to one-shot. Because Gran Torino's weird, dude. Like, the man moves with weird-ass movements, and it's so weird seeing a Gran Torino fight. Hold on, I dropped my magnet again. All right, I picked it back up. Anyways, yeah, Gran Torino's a strange fellow indeed. That being said, Deku just gets the All Might treatment from Gran Torino, and that pretty much sums up his entire little agency stuff. Deku, of course, ends up stopping Stain because they end up going to Hosu City, and Deku ends up catching Stain before he can finish Native off, and actually still ends up saving Ida. Though there is no Nomu incident, Deku does end up getting all the credit for taking down Stain because he went live again and literally filmed the process. Stain, however, said that even though Deku is a show-off, he is a true hero because his heart is in the right place. Even though he loves all the attention, you know, Deku's still a real hero. So he smiled as Stain was defeated, and Deku defeated Stain. That being said, we now have the conclusion to the little Hosu City arc, and with that being said, we're now going to go back to all of them returning to school. All of them would have had pretty successful UA training stuff, and you know, when it comes to the rescue training race, Deku of course ends up winning that. Everybody else gets what you guys would expect, and when it comes to their final exams, Deku ends up acing the test because it's like, bro, it's Deku, it's Shazam. And when it comes to fighting the teachers, Deku ends up fighting every single one of them, not just All Might. He literally ends up fighting every teacher that UA has and every student that UA has. So class 1A plus class 1B. Not only that, but Deku quite literally makes a YouTube video out of it. And not only that, but he even ends up shouting out one of his #1 fans, this kid by the name of Zether. Yeah, it's pretty dope. You know, a bunch of people subscribe to him, as you guys all should as well. Shameless plug out of the way though, guys. I keep shamelessly plugging myself, bro. I'm sad. No, but anyways though, seriously, Deku would end up basically just kind of, you know, he'd be chilling, you know what I mean? The man would be vibing, and it's to this point that, you know, he would kind of just be told that, you know, he won because it's like Deku beat everybody. He 100% destroyed Class 1A, Class 1B, and all the heroes. When it comes to all of them, he kind of just let out a giant burst of electricity, seeing as he didn't really want to waste too much energy. And Deku just kind of said, Shazam! As he turned out of his Shazam form, and that blast of electricity was able to blow out like all of the students. That pretty much just meant that all of the teachers were the only ones left. And Deku would then say, Shazam again, as All Might threw a punch that actually ended up hitting Deku's face before he transformed, but Deku is able to slightly dodge it, so Deku got thrown into the wall. However, as soon as he gets up and dusts himself off, Deku would look right at All Might as he would point at him and then point at his eyes as he would say, I'm watching you, and he would then proceed to take everybody else out in an instant. This one, Deku would blitz at All Might and say, alright, I think it's about time that I give you back what you deserve. As he would say, United States of Shazam! As he would throw a giant punch at All Might's face, which would end up sending him straight to Recovery Girl. And that being said, this is when we will now be covering movie content. I usually never cover the movies, but seeing as Deku's just gonna mollywop everything, I might as well give you guys a little bit of extra content. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for that, the story probably would have ended like 20 minutes ago, but come on now, I gotta give you guys a little bit more content. I know you guys aren't exactly here to just sit here and be told about how Deku mollywops everybody, so I gotta include a couple of extra moments. However, right as all those little battles happen, Deku would end up getting a text from Midnight because, as I said earlier, Deku got a little bit of a after the UA Sports Festival from a little someone called Midnight. Deku would get another text as afterwards, Deku would end up going over to Midnight's house. You know, nobody knew, and he had a little bit of a sneaky link, you know what I mean? He and Midnight got down to it, and you already know the vibes. Deku put her in a wheelchair, you know the vibes, and yeah. Now we start with the Two Heroes movie. They would all basically be invited to David Blaine's, or I believe that's what his name is, David whatever Melissa's dad name is, right? David Shield. No, not David Blaine, but David I can't believe I just said that. David Shield's little island, his little cool island. And, well, the Two Heroes stuff would still happen. He still wanted to make All Might healed again. And so Wolfram and all that stuff still ended up happening. However, before we get into that, let's cover what happened as soon as Deku landed. Deku would land along All Might, and this is when he would meet David Shield. He would immediately look at him as he would say, yo, what's up? My name's Shazam. As he would say, oh, I know all about you, dude. I'm like your biggest fan. This is when Melissa would come running out, and Deku would see her as he would hear this song that goes, I've been feeling dry tonight. You know what I mean? He would hear that in the background, and he'd say, and he would just be like, he'd be licking his lips as he's just looking at Melissa, and David Shield just looking at him like, hey, Don't get any thoughts. This is when Deku would start smirking and Melissa would run up to him as she would jump on Deku and give him a great big hug. This is when Deku would quite literally grab her as he would fly off with Melissa, and David would just be like, well, if it's anybody, I'd rather it be him than anyone else. As All Might would just start laughing loudly as they would end up catching up, and Deku would end up catching up with Melissa, if you know what I'm saying. As it's at this point that the little, Wolfram stuff would happen, but Deku's there, dude. Let's be honest. Nobody is going to stop Deku. Deku's shut off the security system and then proceeded to destroy Wolfram with the device that amplified him. There was not a thing he could do. He tried using the metal to stop Deku from getting to him, but Deku quite literally flew straight at him. The pieces of metal would try to hold him back in the same way that they did to All Might. And speaking of the way that they held All Might back, that fight. Honestly, the Two Heroes movie was pretty dope. The one where Deku and All Might both had a face against the little metal guy. Dude, I honestly cried, bro. That fight was incredible. Yeah, that being said, though, yeah, Deku tried to be stopped, but it was no use, man. Deku is too OP. That being said, Deku destroyed Wolfram, and after that, they all returned back to school. Deku ends up getting Melissa's number, and he just adds it to his little list of conquerors, I guess you could say. That being said, they would all finally be going to the forest training camp arc, and this is when they would all meet the wild Pussycats. All three of them had a little sum for Deku, and you already know my Deku gets down. So the first night after, getting to the little camp, Deku ended up knocking some ankles, if you know what I'm saying, right? And after that, Deku basically just ended up having a chill forest training camp arc. Remember, guys, there's no all for one, meaning that there's no Vanguard Action Squad. So Deku, during the forest training, would honestly just help everybody else with their training and hang out with all of his friends that he has at UA. Not only that, but he would end up clapping a couple of, stuff. He could clap, he'd be going like this, clapping for all of his classmates because, they're doing great things. Deku would clap with Momo, with Uraraka, with Tsuyu, everybody that you can think of. Deku, he acknowledges his classmates. So Deku's obviously going to be the first one to cheer for them. With Mina, with Jiro, the entire class, bro. Even Kendo, the entire class 1B class. Everybody just loves Deku, man. He's just going over and helping them with their training, you know what I mean? If get what I'm putting down. Anyways, with that being said, though, this is when the hideout raid stuff would not even happen either, because it's like there's no point. And the provisional hero license exam arc would finally roll around the corner. However, I'm not covering it. I hate this part. Not only that, but Deku already has his provisional hero license. He got it when he was literally 12 years old. It's insane. My man Deku is exotic. That being said, though, this is when we will now just straight up jump into the overhaul arc. They would return back to school after getting their agency stuffs, and this is when Deku would actually be announced that Deku has everything that he basically needs to become a pro hero. If he wants, he could just get out of the school and just become one for himself. You want to know what Deku does? He says, nah, I'm going to stay in school, man. Honestly, I'm just going to stay here for the full 3 years. I guess I could be a pro hero by night, though, as everybody's just like shocked. They're like, you want to stay here with us? And a couple people would honestly have some tears go down as they're just like, you're so awesome, man. You actually like us for us. And Deku just hangs out with his classmates, has a pretty lit day. And it's at this point that Deku would end up meeting the big three. He would end up obviously cock-slapping Mirio because it's like, bro, you can phase, but Deku has Shazam's powers with him. It's like, there's no competition, bro. It's not gonna work out, Mirio. I'm sorry. And yeah, Deku basically ends up destroying Mirio. Oh, sorry about that loud bang. Again, it was my magnets. That being said, though, Deku ends up, of course, destroying Mirio, and he would end up meeting Tsunade, which leads to the saving of best girl Eri. That being said, Eri is taken home, and she's actually adopted by Deku's family. They're rich, dude, so why not? It's like, why not adopt Eri? She's cute. She's been going through it, and Deku just helps her heal, man. Like, he just helps her with all of her problems. That being said, this is when they would then have the heroes, little hero school festival little stuff, and Deku would not even have to stop Gentle because he knows that Deku's in UA, so it's like, you're not about to try that, you know what I mean? And yeah, that basically concludes What If Deku Was Shazam. I hope you guys went on to enjoy this story, seeing as it was a lot of fun to make. Also, I forgot to mention, Deku ended up clapping Mirko too, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys wanted to hear about that stuff. Since a lot of y'all are weirdos, man. A lot of y'all are weirdos, but y'all are my weirdos though, so it's okay. Anyways, That being said, Deku ends up just basically becoming the #1 hero of the planet, and in terms of who you want him to be shipped with, he can be shipped with whoever. He ends up destroying all crime, and crime rate pretty much drops down to an all-time 0. Deku is literally immortal, or at least his Shazam form. If Deku was to never get out of his Shazam form, he would quite literally never age. So Deku is going to be the world's greatest hero for forever, basically. Nobody's ever going to be able to say a thing to him. Nobody's going to be able to stop him. Nobody's going to be able to do anything. So that pretty much concludes what if Deku had Shazam's powers. I hope you guys went on to enjoy the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like down below. Make sure to check out the links down below in the description. Turn on those post notifications, seeing as I am going to be dropping a what if movie every day for the foreseeable future, or until at least I return back to school, seeing as I'm on fall break right now. And once I return to school, I'll be dropping a what if movie like once every week. I promise, guys. But with that being said, though, guys, I love each and every single one of you guys. Tomorrow I will be dropping what if Naruto at paper release, and yeah, hope to see you guys on my next video. Zedder out. Peace.